Okay guys, this is going to be the install video on how to put my street legal kit on the Valtinsu EM5 or EM5 Pro like this one. This should also work just fine with the Yasma IN10 and IN10 Pro, so they should all be the same. But I got this bike and I'm actually going to be selling these in the Ogden, Utah area. Street legal, basically ready to go. I'll have the titles already for them, the VIN inspection will be done, and then after that you'll just have to take it to get inspected and insure it, and you'll be able to register this for the street. So basically, if you bought just the kit, this is what you're going to have to do to install it. And as you can see, I've already taken off the side panel here, which is pretty easy to do. I already removed the battery as well. All of those are pretty straightforward things to do, so I'm not going to sit here and film myself doing all of that. Also, you'll need to take off the front number plate, but other than that, that's as far down as we need to disassemble this to install this kit. But I will show you all of the parts that we're going to be putting on this and give you a basic idea of where everything is going to go on this bike, and then I will continue on with installing it. A quick note also, to get the stock bar switch off, you'll just have to pull the bolt out of it, and you need to remove this grip, slide it off. I use a little compressed air gun, and I just blast air right underneath the grip and they just blow right off. And to install it, reinstall it, you kind of do the same thing, but that's all you have to do there. And obviously unplug all your connectors. You don't need to unplug the headlight connector if you're not switching to my headlight. But anyway, you do need to take the headlight off to install this kit, or at least I think it's just easier that way. And let me just start off by saying that if you did not select some of these add-ons, then the parts will not come in the kit. So this might not be exactly what you see. You might have more, you might have less. It will just depend on what you select as part of your kit. But anyway, on my bike, I am putting a white license plate light on it, and obviously I'm putting on this little block off plate that I make to give you that little storage compartment under the seat. And this is pretty much how they're all going to come with by default with these fork tube style blinkers, and this tail light with my own design mount. I really like how that came out. And then obviously you'll just have your OEM plug for the tail light, and these two connectors are for the plate light. And then this little 2-pin connector is actually for the blinkers, because the stock tail light plug only has 3 pins, so I needed 2 more pins and a way to extend it up to the front bike that was waterproof and reliable. And I've used these tons and tons in the past and they work really well. And then obviously for the tail light, sorry, this is for the front harness. This one is for the tail light. They're all right next to each other. But anyway, also for the blinkers, this is going to ground through the horn. So basically all this does is tee itself together for ground so that I can get ground for the horn. But anyway, so that's the basic idea of the harness. I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty more as I install it and just explain everything, how it's going to work. And obviously if you order my headlights, it's going to come plug and play with one of these headlights. One of these headlights is 3000 lumens. You can bolt it right up to the OEM bracket for the old headlight. Let me know if you guys are interested in me making my own bracket that will make this perfectly centered in the bike. But I'm not sure it's worth the extra cost due to, you know, just most people probably aren't going to care about it that much. But anyway, and this little extender wire here is for that 2-pin connector that is for the blinkers that goes to the tail light. So there's a male on one end and a female on the other, and this is also male and female. So that is how everything is going to work. Let's go ahead and get started. First things first, you need to take out these 2 bolts to get the battery out, obviously. So once that's out, you'll be able to have access to all of this. I recommend using little needle nose pliers to disconnect the orange wire from the horn. You don't actually need to disconnect the blue wire unless you just need a little more space. but basically all you're going to do is connect that those blue connectors from the front harness to this, but you'll need the battery out to reach all of that easier, and obviously you'll have to pull off the side panel, which is just the 2 bolts underneath and the 2 bolts on top. So once that is all done, you're ready to start installing. Okay, first things first, this is the bar switch that we'll be using on the kits. And all you have to do is take out this bolt right here, and that will allow you to take this back plate off of this bar switch so that you can install it. I wish that the OEM one you could take on and off without having to take the grip off, but you can't. So this one just has a little slot hole, and you put this tab right into there and close it up. Just make sure that you're not going to pinch any of these wires in here. Each one of these is an individual switch, and they are soldered on, so just be careful of that. If you notice anything visually broken, let me know and I'll be able to send you a replacement, but I will be testing these before I ship them, so there shouldn't be any issues. But anyway, we'll just get this put on. So I just kind of am going to drape the wiring over everything and get this switch installed. It's a little bit easier to tilt this upwards at first while you're getting the bolt started, and then after that you can set it to wherever you want it. But just to get it started, I like to tilt it up a little bit so that I can see what I'm doing. And once it's close, you should still be able to move it up and down. So kind of just sit on the bike and decide how far up you want it tilted, and then go ahead and tighten it down. And this switch does also have a M8 threaded hole for a mirror. If you want to buy one of those on Amazon, I might offer them on my website soon. But anyway, you just thread that right in, and then you can have a little mirror come up and out. I will be selling as an add-on some mirrors that you can strap around the bars, stuff like that. But once again, those are add-ons, not included in the base price. So once you have this, make sure that you get these wires routed behind this front brake line. You do not want them to be in front of it. And now all we have to do, let me see if I can get you a little better view here. Okay, now all you need to do is plug in your front harness switch, and these obviously can only go one way, so you don't need to be worried about which one is which, but the one for the front harness does have 3 wires going into it. Anyway, and then this little 2-pin connector, I'll show you how to hide this extension wire, and then you will be plugging that extension wire into this. But let me show you that really quick. And also, you're going to want to leave these fork tube blinkers unmounted for now until you get everything put back together, simply because there's no way to tell which is left and which is right. So you'll just need to turn on the whole kit in order to figure that out, and then you can mount these on. One quick note about these is you want the wire to be coming to the inside, as they do have like a sweeping motion. So they will kind of slide and blink like this. If you mount it this way, it will be going the wrong way, essentially. So just make sure that they are mounted like this or like this, depending on which one is left and which one is right. Okay, that little 2-pin extension wire that I was talking about that's for the blinkers, that is basically going to go in the same location as the rear brake line. You can unscrew this one screw right here, and that will allow you to pry this open just enough to fish it through there, or you can start from the back and go forwards. Either way, just has to go through that little spot there. And then if you want to get crazy with it, you can fish this all the way through here behind this plate, if you're able to do that. The other thing you could do is, this just happens to be just the right thickness and everything to just set right inside this channel for that rubber brace for the battery. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But I'm just going to do mine right through there. Not a huge deal. It shouldn't even hit it anyway, because it literally is lower than the rubber on here. And then you're going to run it with the rest of everything straight on top of the motor, basically. I'm thinking about zip tying all of these together right there at the bottom maybe, but we'll see how much clearance the battery needs and stuff. I might not, but anyway. And you're going to route this over by the rear shock basically, and I would zip tie it right next to this one here, the same one for the tail light, just to keep everything nice and tidy. And then that 2-pin extender wire is good to go, so you can continue with the rest of the kit. Also, at the same time you do the 2-pin extender wire, run the little negative ground wire to the horn placement. Also, you can use that same little channel that is by the where the rear brake line goes, and that will feed power for, negative for the blinkers. So pretty easy. You should be able to just fish it in there, and then we'll zip tie this up when we're done. Okay, I have the ground wire for the blinkers hooked up. All you're going to do is one end is going to be hooked to the orange wire for the horn. Right here, you can see that is the orange wire, and then the other end is going to be hooked into the horn. Polarity doesn't matter on a horn, so you can just put it in either way. And then the light blue one is just going to go directly into the horn like it was before, and we can tuck all that away. At this point you can put the battery back in and put the bracket back on. Obviously, do not connect the battery just yet because we are still doing wiring and we don't want any power accidentally flowing somewhere that we don't need it. So anyway, just make sure that you zip tie up that 2-pin connector nice so that it's not going to catch on the shock. And then when we're fully done, we'll plug in the battery. Okay, now that the front harness is all zip tied together, if you bought my headlight, you'll have this little black box, which is kind of a ballast box for the light, that you'll have to zip tie it up with the rest of it. But otherwise, just make sure that your wires are bunched up good, and that way it'll make everything easier, and it'll make it easier to get the front number plate back on. One thing I did note while I was assembling this bike is that the headlight bracket and the front number plate bracket, mostly the front number plate bracket, needed to be bent just a little bit in order for it to sit into these pins nicely. And I also moved that bolt all the way to the bottom of the slot, which helped a lot. So I know people have complaints about the front number plate not staying on these, but that's what I did to make mine fit a lot better. So I just made this basically a right angle bend, whereas before it was kind of smushed past that. But anyway, so we can go ahead and put the front number plate back on and bolt the headlight on, but that should be it for the front. Just make sure that you leave your blinkers unattached for now, and also the front headlight connector. If you bought my headlight, I'm just leaving it hanging down for a second while I get the front number plate on. Okay, next we're going to mount up the tail light, and the tail light is going to mount on these furthest back 2 bolts. So just take those off, and then the wire itself is going to actually kind of run through this little spot right here, this little pocket. And as you put back on the number plate, you'll kind of get a feel for where it needs to land so that you don't have to drill any holes or anything. But this plastic sleeving on the wiring is pretty resilient, so that should help a lot with wearing through anything. But we're going to do that, and then we can get it plugged into the connector and get it all tidied up and out of the way. Okay, we have the tail light mounted. Fits perfectly in there. I couldn't get it up much higher if I wanted to, just because you don't want it hitting into this rear fender when it's moving around and stuff. But anyway, I thought that looked really clean, so that's how I did it. Then you'll just run this wire from here through this little space in between these 2 tabs, and then you just plug everything up And you can actually lightly zip tie the wire to this cable, but if you do it too tight, then your seat will be hard to open. But if you want to just kind of route it there a little bit and zip tie it just enough to keep it over on that side, that will work just fine. And then obviously we have our plate light connector. So we're going to put the plate light on next, and that is something that will be an extra if you want it. Same with the license plate mount, to mount the license plate right off of these two bolts here, and kind of covers the mud flap a little bit. But anyway, and in order to do that, we'll just drill a small hole through the number plate for the license plate light. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and carefully put back on this number plate and obviously get this wire where it needs to be. But we'll do that, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, I have the number plate back on, and the taillight wiring is nice and tucked away. And now I also mounted up my plate light, and it is way in there, kind of in the plastic, so it's easier to just tighten the nut by hand and then give it one last good twist right here by hand. You really don't need a wrench for these. They're just so tiny, and it does have this little washer that kind of bites into the plastic, but I mounted that right here, shining towards this, which is where the plate is going to be. So that is the plate light all wired up. I do have plate mounts on the website as well, so you can check those out. I'll have those in just a day or two, and I'll be posting pictures with it. But anyway, that's basically it once I plug in the plate light. But anyway, we can kind of tidy things up now and plug back in the battery and give everything a test, make sure it's all working correctly. Okay, got everything all buttoned up, so now I'm just going to turn on the bike, turn on the power to the kit, which is the toggle switch on the bars, and now I will do the left blinker. Looks like that one is the left blinker, and that one is the right blinker. So now I'll mount those up. I'm going to put them right here where there's a little gap in the number plate so they can be seen from the front, but you can put them wherever you want, wherever the wires will reach. You could also cut these and put your own blinkers on if you want, or if there's a specific kind you might like, go ahead and let me know, and I could look into wiring those up ready to go in the kits. Okay, this is the completed kit after it is installed. Looks pretty sweet if I do say so myself. Everything's nice and tucked away, so let's go ahead and show you. The brake light has kind of the startup function, which looks pretty cool. And now it is on, and then obviously you have your actual brake light when you pull the lever. License plate light is on and illuminating where I will be mounting the plate. And that's what the bar switch looks like. And the headlight, if you chose to buy the headlight. And then obviously there's the blinkers right there. So that is job done. I'll be putting on a mirror and a couple other things, and then I'll get everything inspected and ready to go.